Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to discuss today a little bit about budgeting and how we go about budgeting for our homeschool expenses now that we homeschool full-time. We normally do a household budget regardless, and with that household budget we have several bank accounts. We may have an account for our household expenses like, your mortgage, your electricity, your gas bill, cable bill, things of that nature, grocery, and account for household savings, just in case there's a water leak or we have a plumbing issue and things of that nature. So we save for those items. We have a transportation budget. If a car needs fixing, if we need an oil change, if we need tires all of a sudden, we have a medical account. We also have an account for clothing, an account again for homeschooling. Originally, before we homeschooled, that account was for office, since I work at home, and school supplies. So we just, incorporated homeschool within, or merged homeschool expenses into that account. We also have an account for any seasonal expenses, like if the kids have sports or activities, or if we have subscriptions. Those things aren't normally a monthly expense. Well, if they are a monthly expense, it would come out of there. But normally we pay for those things, every 3 months or during the summer, or, things of that nature. And I think we have some other types of accounts too, but I just can't recall them at the moment. And of course, general savings and things of that nature. So this video is going to be specifically about our homeschool account and how we go about saving for that. Well, we are homeschool expenses. Homeschool expenses can include, any equipment that we may need, printer, laminator, things of that nature. We have those things now. We invested in those things. But, if we need ink, as an example, for those things, paper, printing paper or construction paper, markers, crayons, pencils, curriculum, books, any electronics that are needed, and things of that nature. So anything that may be needed for homeschool, from going to a homeschool convention to purchasing supplies, to equipment, anything that's needed to educate our children, or anything that we need to make it easier to educate our children, all that is a part of homeschool expenses. So what I normally do is I make a budget and I determine first, what do we need for the, upcoming school year? What supplies do I need for my son, for myself, for my toddler? And I do a little bit of research. I look through all the websites, from Amazon to eBay to Rainbow Resources, christianbooks.com. I think it's called Home Buyers Co-op or Homeschool Buyers Co-op. I know I'm probably getting it so wrong, but it's a co-op that allows you to buy curriculum at a deep discount. So I researched through there, and I put an average amount of what the curriculum or what the supplies or what the equipment will look like. Okay. So I make a list of all the things that we need to include the price, get the total. I increase that total by 5% just in case the cost goes up. And then I divide it by 10. I don't divide it by 12 months because normally with homeschool conventions, or if there are sales, as an example, I may not be able to make those purchases within 12 months. It's easier for us to save for 10 months, divide that total by 10 months in order to have sufficient funding within that account to cover whatever we need. Another expense for homeschool is like homeschool or educational subscriptions, like ABC Mouse or Beast Academy and things of that nature. Brain Pop, as an example. So once I divide that by 10, I get my number and I know how much I need to save for the next 10 months. And then that kind of determines how much needs to go into that account. If it is astronomical and it's like outrageous, then I go back and I say, do I really need these things? Okay. But my goal is to always look for those things when I need them, but at discounts. So if I know what I need for the following year, I will begin to look the prior year for whatever I need, just in case there are discounts during the summer or, Cyber Monday, day after Thanksgiving, during homeschool conventions, so I can get the best deal and the best price possible. So once we have that dollar amount and I have that all figured out and we have our numbers, again, that's how we determine how much needs to be placed into that account on a monthly basis. Another thing we do is we make the savings automatic. We make all of our savings automatic. And let me explain what that means. Making your savings automatic is doing it like taxes, I would say. When you get paid, certain taxes come out your paycheck and you can't change that. You can't go in and change your withholdings. You can't go in and say, I want to be exempt in order to avoid paying your federal taxes, right? So when it comes to like your Social Security taxes and when it comes to like your health insurance, if it's coming out of your payroll, your paycheck automatically deducted, you don't see that money. You don't see it into your checking account. You don't see it in your hand. You don't see that money. Okay. You get whatever you get in your paycheck after all that's taken out. So we treat our savings just like that. Okay. So we set our monthly budget amount, whatever that amount is going to be per pay period. So our whatever our amount is going to be per pay period, we set that. If we were to get paid monthly, then we would have set it on a monthly basis. But since we get paid biweekly, we go ahead and do it that way. So whatever that amount is, let's say it's $50 a person, then we go ahead, set it for $50. And every paycheck, they automatically deduct that money from our pay before we see it, and they send it to whatever account that we told them to send it to. Okay, so that's what automatic savings is. I like to use that method for all of our savings accounts because when you see the money, when it's in your checking account, when you have a card for it, when you go and you make a withdrawal and you have that cash, it's easier to spend. But if I don't see it, it becomes a habit and that account just builds up. Okay, so automatic savings. The next thing that we do is we put it into an account that we cannot go into a bank for. So the account that we have our funds in is an account that we have to literally go in and transfer it over. And it takes about a day or two for it to transfer over, okay? So when I say transfer over, what that means is this bank account, I can't walk into a bank to make a transaction. We do not have a debit card for that account either, okay? And again, that just helps us, not see it, not think about it, and it helps us to build the account quicker. Okay, because we're not tempted to spend anything from it because we can't unless we transfer it. So if we need the money, then we go online and we say we want to transfer X amount from that bank account to whatever bank account that we have associated with it. So we associate the homeschool account with an account that we do have a bank in our local area. So we have a bank in our local area. We tie those accounts together. So if we do need money, whatever, we transfer it over within a day or two. That money is in our neighborhood bank account. And then with that account, we have a debit card. We can go inside of an institution and make a transaction. Okay. So we do that for our homeschool. For some of our other bank accounts, savings accounts, like, our emergency accounts, we do that for some. But we don't do that for all, because if it's an emergency, we may need that money right away. So we may not have it may not be in a bank where we can go into an office and do a transaction, but at least we have a debit card so that if something happens, then of course, we have quick access to that money and it's very liquid. We don't have to do anything with it. But again, for a homeschool account, it's in an account we do not have access to on a daily basis, meaning we can't go into an institution. We don't have a card. So we're not tempted to use that money. It builds up quickly if we need it. I plan for it, transfer it over, money is there in 1 to 2 days. So that's how we save for our homeschool. 1, we figure out what we need. We identify everything we need. I research, get some estimated prices. Once I figure that out, I divide it by 10 months. And then I figure that's how much we need on a monthly basis. And then I figure out how much we need on a biweekly basis. Once we figure out that number, have a discussion with my husband. We're like, no, that's too high. Or we can do a little more because our expenses are a little higher this year, because it's our first year, or because, whatever the reason may be. But once we agree on that number based on the research and the data that I pulled, then we go ahead and then we make our savings automatic. We go ahead, put it in our bank account, making sure that our bank account is not easily accessible. And that's how we do it, guys. Where do we find the money? Where did we find the extra money for increasing one of our savings account? Our pay did not increase, but our expenses increased because we did homeschool. We found extra money through looking at our various budgeted items for the month and figured we don't need this line item anymore, or looking at, the cost for electricity for the past 6 months, although it does fluctuate based on season. Our bills have been averaging around this much, so we are able to decrease that bill by $30 a month. Or, we called our cell phone and cable companies and we said, what deals do you have? We've been a customer for X number of years. What can you do for us? If you can't work with us, we're going to have to go with another provider that's going to be cheaper. They work with you guys. They work with you. If they can't, go get another provider. There's no reason for you to be loyal to a cell phone company or to a, cable company. In my opinion, it's whoever can meet your needs at the lowest cost. So we did that and we saved a few bucks there, a lot actually, on the cell phone bill and on the cable bill. Also, what we did was we looked at our grocery budget and we were like, wow, we're spending a lot on groceries. Why? Normally you spend a lot on groceries because you're buying a lot of snacks or a lot of items that you don't necessarily need, or items that you are purchasing off the cuff that's not even on your list. So what we did to save ourselves on that is we started to order our groceries online at Walmart and Kroger and, whoever else had, online services where you order your groceries, or online pickup, where you go ahead and order your groceries and then you pay for it and then you go pick it up at whatever reservation time that you may have. When I tell you that has saved us hundreds of dollars, that has saved us hundreds of dollars, guys. I do not go into a grocery store unless it's an emergency. We use Amazon Subscribe and Save for items that we know we're going to need on a monthly basis. And we, order our groceries online, and ensuring that I stick to my budget and stick to the items that we know we need. If it's not on the budget, we don't need it and we're not buying it. So we have truly saved a lot on that. So that's how we found the extra money that we needed in order to afford whatever that biweekly or monthly amount was going to be. So as an example, if we are saving $25 to $50 a month, which is an additional $25. I'm sorry, I made that. No, I know. Okay, let me repeat that. So if we're saving $25 every pay period, a person, that's $50 in our, for the account on a biweekly basis, which is $100 every month. If our goal was to save $50 per person per pay period, that's $100 total between my husband and I every 2 weeks, which is $200 a month. And $200 sounds like a lot for homeschool. as far as where do you find that extra money, but I just explained to you how we found that extra money. So we are able to save $25 per person per pay period, or $50 per person per pay period, which means $100 to $200 per month is going into that homeschool account, which is going to be, about $1,000 to $2,000 a year. Do we need all that for homeschool? The first year when we started this homeschool journey, yeah, guys, I spent maybe $1,000 on curriculum, on supplies, because we didn't have a printer, we didn't have laminating machines, we didn't have the excess and the bulk in terms of all art supplies and other types of supplies like paper and stuff like that, and we didn't have curriculum, so we invested into our homeschool in the ways that I just mentioned. But if our account exceeds what our budget and what our plan is, then that money just sits there and it rolls over to the next year. And then next year, we won't have to save as much as we're saving now. So I will say that we do definitely have an excess in our account from the 2018-2019 school year, which is going to be rolled over to the 2019-2020 school year. And we may not need to save anything for that year, or we may, drastically decrease and only save, $25 or $20 a person, which is $40 to $50 a pay period, which then is, $80 to $100 a month, and again, it just rolls over. And again, the way we found that extra money, our pay did not increase. We looked at all the other line items within our current budget and we said, what can we reduce? What can we decrease? And it was that simple. Your situation may not be as simple, and you may have to find other creative ways to save for your homeschool. But keep in mind, guys, you don't have to spend $1,000 to homeschool. You don't have to spend $500 or even $200 a year to homeschool. You don't need curriculum to homeschool, right? You can purchase normal school supplies. You may need a printer. You may need a laminating machine, and then you can use Pinterest. You can use Teacher Pay Teacher for your curriculum. There's a lot of free curriculum out there, like something called Easy Peasy. I heard it's free. Never used it. I can't give you any critique on it, but there are free resources out there that you can do to make your homeschool very, very cheap, and you may not even spend $1. You can ask friends to hand you down or, provide some hand-me-downs for different equipment and things of that nature. You can use your library, free resource, to homeschool and check out books. You can go to the thrift store, secondhand store, half-price books, Barnes and Nobles, and look for deep discounts on various curriculums and things of that nature. But I just wanted to share with you how we budget for homeschool, where the money comes from, and just give you some tips and tricks that maybe you can use and put in your back pocket to help you figure it out if you are thinking about the homeschool process, or if you are currently within the homeschool process, and even if you're after schooling. When we were after schooling, I had a little budget for school supplies. And if I didn't need all those school supplies, or if my budget was, too much for that year for normal school supplies, like your book bags and, your lunch boxes and whatever the school said your child needed for that year, whatever that was, I did my research. And if I had a little bit of extra money, then I would go and purchase different resources that I can use for after schooling. Okay. So again, hopefully you found the information in this video helpful. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comment box below. I know there are so many other ways that homeschool parents, budget for this homeschooling journey. But if you have some other methods that you use, or if you have some other ideas, please feel free to jump into this conversation and leave those ideas in the comment box below, so that those that read the comments, they can have some other ideas that I may not have brought forth today that may work great for them. So Thank you for watching. And until we meet again in another video, you make it a great day. Bye. She wants to say bye. Say bye. Don't cry. Why are you crying? Say bye.
Bye.